Farland here at Farland Classic Restoration, and we've been on the block here for 30 years. Wow. Time goes by kind of fast. We started 3 blocks down at a little place called MPH, which was Mike's performance headquarters, and that he did a lot of work on very exotic collector cars and race cars. And we started as a little detail shop called Country Club Auto Detail. That was our original sign over there hanging on the wall. And my sister and I started the business with $140 as a summer job. We were only going to do it for 3 months. That was it. We just needed to make a little summer money. So somehow we forgot to quit, and here we are. This is our building. Next door is our building. That area back there is ours. And we have a showroom at the end of the block, which you're all welcome to go down to later if you would like to see the cars down there. We have it's kind of a private showroom, but we have it open. People come make an appointment. And we have cars on consignment, cars that we own, and we sell quite a few collector cars out of there. So it's a nice, safe way for people to transact a sale of a car. We do a lot of estate sales. We do all kinds of things to help people so somebody's not knocking on their door. It's really one of the main reasons a lot of people like to use the service is in today's world, they don't want people coming to their home and trying to transact a deal when you don't know the title work, and we handle all of that at a reasonable fee, and it have very good reviews from our customers. They're very happy with the cars they get when they buy them, and the sellers are happy because it takes a lot of the worry out of it. So we have the sales, the restoration, and then we do some repair work as well on various cars. We work a lot of Mercedes cars. As you can see, we always have some around. And we have a staff of 17 people. This is Aaron and Louise. They're our management team here in the shop. That's why they're working Saturday. Forced. But Louise has been here for over 20 years. Aaron's been here quite a long time. Many of our staff have been here a long time. We have a very, very good crew of very, very talented people. And we pretty much do everything in-house except for some of the engine building itself. Sometimes on our Ferraris, we've actually put the engines together here in-house, but we don't do the machine work. We have to get that complicated stuff sent out. The Mercedes stuff, we do a lot of the assembly. This little car here is a recent completion. It's from Aspen, and the man's owned it for over 20 years, and unfortunately, the fenders were bulgy, and there was some rust spots coming through, and it was just, he was getting worried about it because it was looking worse and worse, and he had it painted years ago. As it turns out, like many of those cars, it got hit in the front end at some point, smashed it, and even bent the inner fender wells. And he thought it was normal that they were waving like that. He didn't have anything to compare it to. But when we got it out and showed him what was going on, he was pretty shocked. So we actually put 2 new fenders from the firewall forward and some inner structure on the inside. I'll open the hood in a few minutes and show you. And his hood was all out of alignment. It didn't fit. The gaps were all weird. And when you reach in those cars, you can feel if they've overlapped the fenders. And a lot of times they'll cut one of these off right here, and they take a new piece and they weld it right here, so you've got metal overlapping metal, and that's where you tend to get problems with rust and whatnot. We see that a lot on these cars, and you'll see if people go to examine a 280 SL, they open the hood and they start looking for those spot welds around the inside edge. And also, if you just feel that inside edge and you run across a piece of metal where it's overlapped, suddenly it's twice as thick and it's got a rough edge behind it, that's an indication that your fender's been overlaid. And that's a simple way to tell if one of these cars has been hit before. But this was such a good car, such a good driving car. But we removed the engine, we resealed the engine, replaced a couple of parts and some pumps, and got everything tuned up nicely. Did massive work on the air conditioner because it was, not working great. By the time we took it out, it had little bruises and all kinds of stuff. So fully functional car now. He's going to have the seats done in Arizona. He originally didn't want us to redo the seats, but now that everything else is done, you know how that goes. It's like, oh geez, I should have had to do the seats. So anyway, he's going to take care of that. He wants to get it and drive it. And they didn't have this car painted the correct color. You know, it's white, but they had it painted more of a tan white. It was really missed. It was way off. So as we got the door panels off, we found some of the original paint under there, and we were able to scan it and match it up. And this, if you take, could you get me a white piece of paper over there, just out of the print? This car looks white to, when you look at it here, somebody said, what color is it? You'd say, oh, it's a white car. It's pretty white.
Is that papyrus white or what?
Yeah, I think they call it papyrus, actually.
That's great.
It's got a lot of gray. You'd never expect that, right? You can't tell how much gray it has until you see real white on it. And they have the color so far off. It was way more white. And so this color has even a little bit of blue in it. So it brings your blue interior and the top and ties it all together. It just flows so nicely. It's a really pretty color. And when the owner saw it for the first time after we painted it the correct color, he was just loved it, absolutely went crazy. He thought it looked so much better. And
Where's that factory color?
yes, it's correct colors. This car was blue with this color exterior. But just over the years, they mixed it all up and made a mess out of it. We have a 220S Cabriolet in a paint booth that we restored 10 years ago, maybe a little over 10 years ago, for a customer in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And he's driven it every year consistently since then. And over the years, it developed a little scratch and a this and a that with paint. So he's having us go over it, just freshen it all up for the next 10 years because he's enjoyed it so much. We redid all the wood, all the chrome. That car had 75 pieces of chrome that we redid. And a long time ago, it was quite expensive. People say, is it expensive to restore a 220S? The chrome's expensive. The wood's $12,000, you know, and if there's anything left in your budget after those two, you've got the whole rest of the car to do.
Where do you send your chrome to, Salt Lake?
That chrome at that time went to Paul's Chrome back east, which is a very high-end chrome shop.
This one went to Utah.
Yeah, this one went to Utah. They do very nice work for us. We have 2 chrome shops in Utah that we use. Ogden Chrome and then Salt Lake City Chrome, depending on what we're after on the chrome. That car we didn't have to redo the chrome on that. We did some other trim items, but the chrome was already pretty nice. So we were sort of lucky on that end. But this car was one of these cars that you just wanted a paint job, one of those things. And then once we discovered what was wrong with it, it turned into something much more. And of course he squawked and screamed and howled the whole way because it cost a lot. But at the end, when he came to see it, then he was extremely happy about it. He got it appraised and they appraised it for $160, and he was happy with that because it raised the value of his car considerably. This was a $60,000, $70,000 car at the top before because of the damage and whatnot. But now all that's just absolutely gone, and it would be very difficult to figure out that was all fixed. You can't just, even an expert that looked at it couldn't detect what had been repaired. And that's how we like to do it. If we're gonna do it, we have a spot weld machine. We get back in and put all the spot welds back in the correct places so everything's the way it should be. We've done a few of these cars over the years. They're not an easy car to do, but they're, as you know, with a Mercedes, there are certain things that have to be correct about it. We're not doing anybody any favors. We restored a couple of 300 SLs, and of course that gets to another whole level when you get up into those super expensive cars. So next door we have a couple of 190s we're working on. We're rebuilding an engine in one of them for the customer. We already did the engine in the other one. And we've got a 76 450 SLC that only has 15,000 original miles on it, which is a really rare car. The guy out of Texas collects super low mileage Mercedes. He has another one like that that's black. And the only problem was it sat somewhere back east and the engine compartment had a bit of corrosion and rust, like way more than he liked. So we're pulling all that apart. We're going to repaint the compartment, refinish a lot of pieces. So when it goes back together and you open the engine compartment, it'll look as fresh as the rest of the car. We have the seats re-padded with the correct Mercedes pads. All the years that horsehair and foam had broken down. Even though the leather in the car was pristine, it's amazing. Without the padding, it's a mess. It was all wrinkled up. So anyway, we're getting that sorted out. We have lots of projects. This Hudson is a 52 that belongs to a guy. How many kids in his family? 7?
Yeah.
7 kids. He traveled the country with his parents in his car and the whole family. I think they must have had some in the trunk, but they went to California from back east. They went all over the place. So it's a sentimental journey for him to bring the car back to its former glory. And we'll open it up. We just finished upholstery in this car. And this crazy striped upholstery is the original pattern when we took the seats apart, which were covered with something else. Underneath it, they left all the original upholstery and the buttons and everything else. So we were able to get a really good duplicate of that. But we found, we might even have these.
Yeah, this is some of the original.
Yeah, this is some of the original vinyl, which looks very similar to what we have now, just a little bit faded. And here's the original seat pattern.
Yeah.
So you can see it's all faded, but where it's not faded up here, you can see it's got the green stripes in it, and the blue and the tan. And so this is a company makes these duplicates for the old Hudsons, which is pretty neat. And then we were able to locate the button locations. The owner's been very specific about everything going back. Even the buttons had to be in the right exact spot.
Yeah. 2 or 3 times sending email with a sketch over there. The button's gonna be here, 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 here. See the steering wheel there. Glove box right here.
That has an automatic in it, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It is automatic.
Is that a 2-speed automatic?
I think it's a 3.
3?
Yeah.
This was still a Hudson, in other words, it wasn't American Motors.
No, it's a Hudson
Just
Hornet.
Hudson.
Yeah, it's still a Hudson. And this car's got a lot of chrome on it. And this was, so many cars got wrecked. This car had a front end off of a 53 or was it
51.
a 51? It's a 52. So somebody smashed it back in the day and bent it all up, and they just found it cheaper to buy fenders and everything off of a different car. So the whole front end was wrong on the car. So we went to restore it. Those spears that go down the front end actually stopped at the door because the next year didn't have those, or the 51 didn't have them. So he had a very odd looking car, which his dad drove that way for years. They bought it that way and just really didn't know the difference for a long time. So anyway, we bought a whole separate Hudson, which is outside, and we're able to get the parts from it and switch it over. So this has been an interesting project that's getting close. This little Porsche is our electric project moving into the next century here. It's a 912, 1966, and we're doing a full electric conversion. So it'll have a 200 horsepower electric motor with brakes like a Tesla that when you let off, it will recharge the battery. It'll have probably about 50 kilowatts, which means maybe 125 and 150 mile range, which would be pretty good. Most people won't drive a little car like this long distances. They'll go to Cars and Coffee and run around, but still, you get a 100-mile range with one of these cars. You can go to Vail, or you can go pretty much anywhere with that kind of range. So the batteries and the motor are coming. We should see them in a couple of weeks, and we've had them here once before. We sent them back to get some work done, and they're going to be all packaged up. So it'll have a big battery box in the front. It'll have a couple of smaller battery boxes in the back. The motor, we've already had it bolted in. It bolts right to the original transmission, so we'll still have the 4-speed. And no oil leaks, no carburetor problems, no hard starting. Guaranteed.
Beauty.
You push the button and the car will go down the road. And this car had 76 horsepower originally with, 90 foot-pounds of torque or something. Not a very peppy car. So when you get almost 200 foot-pounds of torque, with a little car like this that doesn't weigh much, you're gonna think you're driving some kind of rocket ship, because it'll just absolutely light up and tear down the road. And the balance of the weight will be a little better. It'll have a little more weight in the front than it did originally, so handling is actually gonna be a little bit improved. And these have been done quite a bit over the last 10 years, so the technology to do a little conversion like this is good. And we're doing another one we have next door, another for a company out in Texas. We're doing the body work on a 912 that they're converting. So getting to be a big business. We may do, I have a 69 280 SL out in our storage that we may do that car electric as well. Should be kind of fun.
Can be lithium-ion batteries or?
Yep, they'll be basically Tesla battery packs repackaged in a different setup, but lithium-ion batteries, good solid quality batteries. And it's not, the batteries are pricey. This whole, it's about $35,000 for the motor and the batteries and the electronics for the parts. It's not horrible, because you can spend, I have a customer that rebuilt a 911 engine recently, hot rodded up to about 175 or 80 horsepower. He spent $60,000 to have that motor built. So Porsche motors are very pricey to get them up to run a lot of power. This little car is one we helped the customer acquire. I flew back to Wisconsin to take a look at that. And we just got it recently. It's a 57 Speedster. Numbers matching, correct colors, really nice little car. So he took delivery of it a couple days ago and unfortunately pulled something too hard on the hood and busted the handle. It's a little hard to open, but a good little car. The big Lincoln back there is a conversion project. We put an LS3 engine in there, and we're doing, it's got air ride on it, it's got all kinds of crazy stuff. But that had a big 430 Ford engine that was extremely dirty and inefficient and kept giving the guy a lot of trouble. It wasn't running well, and so he got sick of having problems, and he wanted something that was super reliable. It's a little bit sacrilege to put the GM motor in the Ford product, but in that instance, there's a kit that makes it possible to put it in without chopping up the car. If we put a Ford motor in it, they're super wide, the modern ones, and you've got to do a bunch of cutting to the chassis, and he didn't want to chop the car up. And I can't blame him there. This way it bolts in. If it ever had to be changed back, it could be without any damage to the car. So anyway, 55 Corvette over there that we're getting close on a full restoration. That's one of 976 built, I believe. Pretty rare car. It's one of 120 or 100 and something 3-speed manuals. So it's a rare, pretty rare car. There aren't 900 of them left. And it came to us as a project from, he had it restored at a shop down in Alabama, and it just destroyed it. I mean, we literally had to take the whole car apart and just start over again, because the doors didn't fit, the paint was a mess, the chassis wasn't done right, the motor wasn't done right. One of those things that was just a start over. We get a lot of business at our shop from projects that aren't done at other shops or never get completed, or they're completed improperly. And I'd say, what, 40% maybe?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, about
It's very high,
40% of the work we end up getting here comes from other shops where the project failed or just didn't get completed to the owner's satisfaction. We have a reputation for getting things finished, number one, and sorted out so they actually work. Because anybody can get something to look nice, but to be able to drive it, like I jumped in that, we've got almost 100 miles on it now. We like to get 100, 200. On some of our builds, we'll put 500 miles on it. If they're gonna go on a big rally like the Grand or something, we'll actually drive one of those 500 or 600 miles before we turn it over to be run, because so many guys take their cars to a big event and the first day the car craps out. The reason it craps out is because they didn't bother to test it beforehand in the same conditions the car's going to be running. We've been on that Colorado Grand 8 different times with customers, and that's 1,000 miles up to 11,000 feet into 100-degree temperatures on the western slope. So you go from snow to hot. Your car has to be able to handle the heat, handle the cold, deal with the altitude. So there's a lot to it. And then next door, we'll run over there. We'll see several cars that we're in the process of restoring. We did a full restoration of the little red Porsche 912 right there for a customer. Him and his kids restored that 25 years ago in their garage, and they painted it in the garage. That looked pretty good. Really, they did a pretty good job. But after 25 years, it was starting to show some rust bubbles and problems, so they had us go through it completely, and they're super happy with the way that project came out. We did a lot of replating in here on all the original gold stuff, and of course with the engine out, we were able to paint the whole compartment. It's got a new Mercedes battery in it. That's a lot. Those engines are hard to do. That's very difficult. Nothing is easy with this thing. Yeah, well, some of them get, I've seen them sell for considerably more. They really come along. He drove it down here from Aspen.
Details that Jack was talking about. A lot of times these are
What year's the Triumph?
Oh boy.
61.
Yeah, 61.
61.
These are color bank readers.
Yeah, they're interesting little cars. Yeah, this was restored in the neighborhood.
Like pretty well more like
shop
next door.
about 25 years ago. They spent a fortune on it back then. Well, let's walk next door and we'll show you the other side.